The millionaire invited the black cleaning lady as a joke. He never thought she'd actually show up. But when the doors opened, she didn't walk in with a mop. She walked in like a diva. Silk gown, diamond heels, head held high. The room went silent. The Hale estate glittered beneath the California twilight, an architectural marvel sprawling across 7 manicured acres in Beverly Hills. It was one of those homes you only saw in magazines, where fountains danced under mood lighting. On the Dr. CUE boasted more horsepower than a Formula 1 starting grid. Tonight, it was set to host one of the most exclusive galas in Los Angeles, the annual Hale Midnight Ball, hosted by none other than tech tycoon Preston Hale. Preston was rich, bored, and drunk on his own ego. At only 30, he'd already sold 2 companies and built a third that was worth $500 million. Charismatic to the cameras, ruthless in the boardroom, and arrogant to the bone, Preston surrounded himself with the kind of people who laughed at cruelty as long as it was dressed in a two-seat. As he sat in his glass-walled office 2 weeks before the gala, sipping top-shelf whiskey and brainstorming party themes with his crew of venture capitalists and crypto kings, he made a joke that got more laughs than it should have. "What if," he said, pausing dramatically, "we sent a formal invite to the cleaning lady? You know, the one that mops the lobby in those green scrubs. What's her name? Cora?" "Carla," someone corrected, smirking. "Yeah, Carla," Preston chuckled. "Let us send her a golden envelope. First class. Like she's a guest of honor." The table erupted in laughter. One of them, bored and high on something, even said, "Imagine her showing up. Like in her work shoes and rubber gloves. Oh man, that would be priceless." "It'd never happen," said another. "She probably wouldn't even know what to do with an invite like that." Preston grinned, twirling a pen between his fingers. "Let us do it anyway. For fun." What started as a half-hearted joke quickly became real. Preston called in his assistant, told her to draft a gilded envelope with Carla's name on it. They even had it hand Delcier to the janitorial office of the downtown tower where Preston's tech company operated. Inside the envelope was a formal invite, complete with the event's dress code but black tie elegance time, valet details, and a small note at the bottom in fine print: "Your presence would be unexpected, but highly entertaining." They laughed again when they added that last part. Nobody expected Carla to show. That was the whole point. Carla Mays had cleaned the Halitech Tower for almost 7 years. Every night she RC'd just before 9 p.m., quietly moving through the offices with her cart, mop, and gloves. She was polite, fast, and invisible to most of the high-paid professionals who walked past her as if she were a go-tour. She rarely spoke unless spoken to, but she noticed everything. The night she received the envelope, she was sorting out cleaning supplies from the stock closet when the courier RC'd. He didn't even look at her directly, just dropped the envelope on her desk and walked away. She read it twice, then again. At first, Carla thought it was a mistake. Why would Preston Hale, a man who never so much as looked her in the eye, invite her to an event like this? Was it a prank? A trap? She stared at the delicate paper, the golden script of her name. It felt both surreal and suspicious. Then she saw the line at the bottom, highly entertaining. Her stomach sank. Oh, she knew what this was. But Carla, wasn't he just a cleaning lady? Not really. She'd once been a college student with a 3.0 GPA, majoring in economics. She'd interned at a pre-C8 investment firm, even shadowed a hedge fund CEO for a summer. But when her mother got sick and her younger brother was still in school, Carla left everything behind. Someone had to keep the lights on. Someone had to work. And no job came with less judgment or attention than cleaning. So she mopped floors, silently, while her dreams collected dust. But something about the cruelty of that invite, the smug assumption that she'd be too ashamed or too out of place to attend, lit a fire inside her. She placed the invitation on the table, looked at it one last time, and made a decision. If they wanted entertainment, they were about to get it, but on her terms. The gold-trimmed invitation had RC'd in a thick envelope, sealed with wax and embossed with Preston Hale's family crest. It looked like something from a royal wedding, not a corporate party. Carla Mays had stared at it on her kitchen table for nearly 2 hours, thinking it had to be a mistake. It wasn't. Her name was printed in sharp calligraphy: Ms. Carla Mays, guest of honor. She knew exactly what that meant. Preston Hale, the tech millionaire with a cruel streak and a smirk that could slice steel, had done this on purpose. It was a joke, a game, a setup for the people at the top to laugh at someone at the bottom. But Carla wasn't just anyone. She'd cleaned Halitech's offices for 4 years. She knew the smell of Preston's imported cologne, the kind he used to drown himself in before board meetings. She knew how he shouted at interns and flirted with assistants, and she especially knew how he and his friends whispered when she walked by. They assumed she couldn't hear through the vacuum noise, but Carla heard everything. She could have thrown the invitation away, forgotten the whole thing, but instead, she made a call. It was the first time in years that she'd reached out to Lana Bishop, her childhood best friend. Lana was now one of the most sought-after stylists in L.A., working with actresses, CEOs, WCS, and Instagram-famous socialites. But when Carla told her the story, there was silence on the line, followed by a single word, "Kun come over." Carla RC at Atlanta's home that night carrying nothing but her work bag, still dressed in her cleaning uniform. But inside, Lana saw someone else. Someone powerful. Someone who'd been buried under years of exhaustion, sweat, and invisible labor. The transformation didn't begin with makeup. It began with a bath, a meal, and a deep, slow breath. "Kun, I am tired of people looking at me like I am nothing," Carla whispered. "Kun, well, then let us show them what nothing looks like in heels." Lana smiled. For the next 2 days, Lana worked with Carla like she was preparing her for the Oscars. A friend from a luxury boutique brought over FCE gowns. Carla's favorite was a rich red silk number with a slit up the side and subtle gold embroidery around the neckline. It made her look like fire wrapped in elegance. Her hair, long and natural, was pressed into waves and swept back into a low, regal bun. A pair of vintage gold earrings borrowed from Lana's own mother completed the look. Then came the shoes, stilettos with crystal straps like something out of a Beyonce video. On the night of the gala, Carla walked down Lana's stairs in full glamour, pausing only when Lana gasped. "Kun girl, if you don't set that room on fire," Lana whispered, shaking her head in awe. They rode to the party in a black Escalade, borrowed from another client. A doctor seer opened the door for Carla as she stepped out in front of Preston Hale's mansion. The photographers at the entrance hesitated, then started snapping furiously, assuming she was someone famous they didn't yet recognize. She held her head high and walked up the marble steps like she owned them. Inside, the party was pure opulence. Crystal chandeliers, waiters in tuxedos, champagne fountains, guests in gowns and suits that cost more than Carla made in a year. But none of it rattled her. They all looked. Some stared. "Kun, who is that?" Someone whispered. "Kun, is she Nigerian? Royalty or something?" Another asked. Carla heard them all, but she didn't flinch. She simply took a glass of champagne from a passing tray and smiled. Her posture was flawless. Her expression unreadable. Then, from across the room, she saw Preston. He was laughing with his entourage near the grand piano, clearly unaware of the shift in energy. He hadn't seen her yet, but he would. She waited. Let them wonder. Let the whispers build. She didn't need to announce herself. Not yet. The joke, she thought, was already starting to unravel. For the first few minutes after Carla entered the marble-floored ballroom, nobody recognized her. The music slowed. The clink of champagne. Glasses halted mid-toast. Whispers flickered like wildfire from one side of the room to the other. Who is she? Is she famous? Is she royalty? She wasn't wearing the dull uniform they remembered. No smock. No rubber gloves. Carla stood at the top of the stairwell in a custom-fit crimson evening gown that hugged her figure like it was designed by angels. The gown shimmered under the chandelier's golden light. Her natural curls cascaded down her back, highlighted with soft gold flecks that caught the eyes of even the most fashion-obsessed guests. Her walk, graceful, confident, like a woman who had nothing to prove but everything to own. By the time she reached the bottom step, a young man offered her a glass of champagne, mistaking her for one of the VIPs. Carla accepted it with a subtle nod and continued through the crowd like a phantom rewriting her story in real time. Kun. In a far corner of the ballroom stood Preston Hale, the man behind the cruel joke. He was surrounded by a circle of trust fund brats, laughing, sipping expensive whiskey. But when he saw her, the glass froze in his hand. His smirk faded. His eyes narrowed in confusion, then widened in disbelief. It was her, the cleaning lady from his office tower, the same woman who quietly pushed carts, wiped his fingerprints from his glass office door, and kept her head down when he walked by. Now, she was the center of attention. His inner circle began shifting uncomfortably. Someone whispered, "Isn't he that the lady from the 3rd floor?" Another murmured, "She looks like a damn movie star." And just then, Carla was handed a microphone by the event's host, a man who thought she was one of the evening's mystery guests. "Would you like to say a few words?" he asked, smiling. The crowd leaned in. Preston's face flushed. Carla took a breath, her eyes scanning the room full of glimmering gowns, sharp tuxedos, and carefully disguised egos. "Thank you," she said, her voice calm, rich, and commanding. "This wasn't where I was supposed to be tonight, or at least, not according to some people." Soft laughter rippled across the room. She held the mic with grace, like someone who'd done it before. But when life gives you an invitation, no matter what the intention, you walk through the door in heels. A woman near the front gasped in delight. Someone in the back whispered, "Who is she?" Carla smiled. Not smugly, but with the elegance of a woman who knew the room didn't expect her to exist in this light. And yet, here she was, and the spotlight wasn't just on her. She was the spotlight. Carla stood at the center of the ballroom with the microphone still in her hand. The crowd was waiting, silent, curious, awestruck. Only the ambient jazz in the background filled the tense space. Preston Hale, the millionaire who had invited her as a cruel joke, was now shifting awkwardly near the hors d'oeuvres table, beads of sweat breaking across his forehead. Carla smiled softly. "You all don't know me," she began, "but I know a lot of you. I cleaned your offices, vacuumed around your desks, wiped your fingerprints off mirrors, and taken out your trash when no one was watching. I was invisible, by design." Several heads turned toward Preston. The tension in the room thickened. "You probably thought I didn't notice the smirks," she said, making direct eye contact with Preston. "The condescending looks, the way people walked past me like I wasn't even there. That's the funny thing about people who clean up after others. We see everything, even the things you try to hide." A nervous chuckle rippled through the room, but Carla didn't break her gaze. "What most of you don't know is that before I was a cleaning lady, I had a life that looked very different. I had a college degree, honors, a career path, a future." Her voice was steady, but her eyes glistened. "But sometimes life don't ask permission to break your plans. My mother got sick, very sick, and with no one else to take care of her, I walked away from everything and picked up a mop instead." Someone in the crowd gasped. Others looked down in shame. But that wasn't the end. It was just a pause. She took a step forward. The red of her dress flowed like silk fire across the floor. "While working nights, I went back to school. I studied business. I took online classes on leadership and sustainability. And 3 years ago, I started my own company, Greenleam Cleaning Solutions. We specialize in eco-friendly commercial cleaning. We began with one building. Now, we service over 60 buildings across the city." Murmurs echoed. Phones were now discreetly filming. People were Googling Greenleam right there in the ballroom. "And funny enough," she added with a half smile, "Preston Hale's investment firm was one of our early contracts. I built my business while working under the noses of men who thought they owned the world. And tonight, one of them thought it would be funny to send me an invitation as a joke." Dead silence. Preston stepped forward, trying to force a laugh. Okay, we y'all had some drinks. This is Carla." Held up a hand, silencing him without a word. "I didn't come here to embarrass anyone," she said, turning back to the crowd. "I came because for once, I wanted to walk through a door that was never meant for me and own it." The crowd erupted into thunderous applause. It wasn't just polite clapping, it was genuine, electrified. Even those who had looked down on her moments ago couldn't deny what they were seeing now. Strength, grace, intelligence, and unshakable self-respect. Reporters in the room suddenly became interested. One of the local business journalists at the gala leaned over to her assistant. "Get her card. I want a full profile by Monday." Back near the entryway, the event host approached Carla with wide eyes. "Miss Mays, I had no idea. That was remarkable. Please, if there's anything we can do, there is," Carla replied calmly. "Next time you see someone who cleans your floors or serves your table, don't look past them." He nodded, humbled. Meanwhile, Preston's carefully curated image was beginning to collapse in real time. Social media was already exploding. Clips from Carla's speech were going viral. Cleaning lady turns gala upside down. Millionaire's joke backfires in spectacular fashion. Meet Carla Mays, the CEO who was invisible until tonight. Within an hour, Carla had received FCE business partnership offers, an interview request from a major financial podcast, and an invitation to speak at a local women's empowerment summit. A talent agent even handed her a card on the way out. Preston tried to save face. He approached her and appreciate as the gala began to wind down. "Carla, listen, I didn't mean for it to come off like that," he stammered. "It was just a joke, you know. We were just having fun." Carla looked at him not with anger but with clarity. "You meant for me to feel small," she said, "but you forgot that small people grow. And some of us grow in silence until we walk into rooms louder than any laugh you could ever muster." He looked away. "You don't owe me anything," she added, "but you do owe the people who work for you something. You never see in them respect." And with it, she walked away, heels clicking against the marble, chin high, a woman transformed not by revenge but by revelation. By the time she stepped into her waiting car, the whole city was talking about her. And Preston, he stood alone, in his $1,000,000 suit, learning the most expensive lesson of his life: never underestimate the quiet ones, especially not the ones cleaning up after your mess, because sometimes the ones you ignore become the ones you can't afford to miss.